What is going on to all my Winning Time fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again, breaking down this Season 1 finale, Episode 10 of Winning Time, which was titled Promised Land, an episode in which we see an incredible Game 6 battle between the Lakers and the 76ers. We see the Rook becomes the Cap, and what comes next for the Los Angeles Lakers. We're discussing that and so much more in today's spoiler review. Before we get into the discussion, make sure you all are checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel and love early movie reviews, TV breakdowns, and live streams, well, come and join the community today by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. And as you all can see on the screen now, if you enjoyed what I had to say about this final episode of Season 1 of Winning Time, well, make sure you're liking and sharing this review, but more importantly, sharing your thoughts in the comments from your pros, your cons, favorite moments of this episode, moments that didn't work for you all. But let's also have a conversation about this series as a whole. What was your favorite episode? Let's give out some awards, your MVP, your Rookie of the Year, your Sixth Man, your Coach of the Year. Let's discuss those in the comments below. So before we get into today's breakdown, I want to give you all an award for being awesome. Thank you for watching these reviews for the last 10 weeks. This has been such an incredible journey. As a lifetime Lakers fan, I love this show. And don't get me wrong, I know the biggest criticism of the show is how they're stretching the belief of what really happened, making some of these real life, people look to be maybe worse than what they really were in reality. And I get all that stuff. And if I was in their position, I would be upset too. Don't get me wrong. But as a narrative, as a show, I really did enjoy this journey. I had such a fun time watching not only the basketball moments be recreated, but also just learning more about the behind the scenes and how the show kind of weaved in its narrative to kind of really highlight what it takes to be a champion. So I really enjoyed that, but I more importantly enjoyed going on this journey with you all supporting these reviews, liking them, sharing them, commenting with some great comments. It means a lot, and you all deserve that championship for being a great community. So thank you all again. But hey, we got to talk about these championship Lakers, and you all know this was just, I mentioned it last week. We ain't been getting a lot of basketball like some of us wanted, and which I'm okay with because we got a lot more character moments than we did in the basketball moments. But I said last week, they better show that Game 6, and god damn it, did they do it, and they really showed us what it took to win that championship, especially Magic Johnson. So hey, full spoilers ahead. We open the episode with the series is tied 2-2, but we see that the Cap goes down with a really bad ankle injury, which did happen in real life. We see him go to the locker room. He wants to get back out there. His ankle's looking terrible. And someone that plays sports basketball, I've had some pretty bad ankle injuries, and they can be just as bad as a break. He wants to go back in there. His wife's like, pump the brakes, honey. You done it. You're doing a great job. There's more than just a game of basketball, and we know that's been the main narrative with Kareem, but he looks at her and tells her, I want this. I want to win this. And we see him go back out there, gutting it up, getting rebounds, doing the sky hook, throwing the ball down. I mean, he is balling out of control. They ultimately win the game, which also is very factional. But we see him leaning on the rookie. He is in pain. He's going to need the Rook to step up. And he does a little bit later, which we'll get into. But again, I just want to applaud the basketball, the intensity. We got all the character stuff, but now it's time to play some game. And all the stuff that we've seen them do outside of the game of basketball is shaping who they are on the court and why it's so important for them to win, which I love that connective tissue there. But getting back into the actual conversation, we're on to the next day. Remember that Swan story that Dr. Bus told us in episode 1? Well, he goes more into, hey, the Swan song, they sing their best when they're about to die, which he thinks, I'm at the finish line. I can sing my song as things are looking good for Dr. Bus. The finances are good, but there's unfortunately a little bit of bad news coming on with, unfortunately, him losing his mom that we know last week. And I love how they tied that into this episode where he's just, again, we know how these characters, they got to push forward. They got to find distractions so they won't have to sit in their sorrow. But he learns that they need a new treasurer, which when we get to that here, we transition over to Buzz, who lies about the truth. He's talking to Jenny about the treasurer, and he is now ready to just be honest with her for really, like I said, there's a lot of first time happenings in this episode. He tells her, honey, with your grandmother gone, there's an open seat. I want to start a family business, and it's time to start this family business. And we see Jeannie, she's smiling like, yes, this is my opportunity. I've been fighting for this. Woo, this moment plays so beautifully. I felt so bad for her, and this is factual too, as Lakers fans know, but he's like, I want to bring in your brothers, I want to bring in the boys, and I want you to prep them, show them around the office for he can eventually allow them to become owners of the Lakers. And again, just taking a moment, which again, the way Jenny's face looked, so beautifully played in the way that Bus delivered it. But for Lakers fans out there, we all know, and we see it in this episode, they don't know a thing about basketball. They're more concerned about, oh, free this, free that, being popular, being in the limelight. That was their concern when it comes to Bus's younger sons, and they almost damn near destroyed this dynasty, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I love that scene because she's just been fighting all season. She's been there the whole time, only to be undervalued by her father, which is just an overarching theme for that character. What a beautiful scene. Let me know your thoughts on that. Getting back into it, we see that it is in your head. We see that Larry is in our boy Magic's head. Not only Larry, but Larry says, I'm a better player. I'm a better man. And we see his mom coming up and Cookie like, he damn sure is right. And we see that Magic wants to get the last laugh. He wants to show his doubters that he is a winner. And we're going to get to that incredible Game 6 a little bit later. But let's check in with Spencer Haywood, who we see Spence completely off the rails with his other friend Junkies as they're preparing to make this hit. But Spencer is under this belief that, okay, damn, with Kareem being out, they're going to need a big man. So we see his agent calls him and he's like, unfortunately, the Lakers don't want to move forward with you. He says, okay, now we're getting back to it. We're going to go ahead and put the hit out on the Lakers, which, again, you all let me know. I didn't know this was true. I didn't know that Haywood tried to put a hit out on Paul to kill him, which, I mean, is that not a crime? I mean, they didn't do the crime, but, like, did he say that? How did this news come out? That's something that I would not be sharing with anyone. That, yeah, back in the day when I was high on drugs, I was almost about to kill the Lakers, the head coach of the Lakers, kill some players while I'm at it too. Like, dude, okay, again, apparently that is factual. I did not know that, but that is a crazy-ass story. Let's move on, please, as we get to, I've got some notes. We see that Jack pays a visit to Paul with some notes on Philadelphia, and he actually had a game plan. If something goes wrong with the cap, a la injury, I got a starting five, and I have a plan for you. As we see that Paul tells him, hey, I don't want to coach next year because I don't feel like it's right. I don't want to take over what you started. And we see Jack tells him, well, hey, keep the coaching job. I'm going to be on a hunt to find a new team where I can kick your ass. I really appreciated that we got that moment with those two characters because they could have easily forgotten that plot that they were best friends. Jack brought Paul in, and they could have just ended it at their beef and not talk anymore from when he was at the hospital bed. But I love that we get some closure with those two characters, and I love that Jack has that competitive nature that he's going to find a team to kick the Lakers' ass in the future. Let me know your thoughts on that. And also, Paul, he's saying that he doesn't want to be the coach anymore, which opens the door for Pat Riley. We'll talk about that later, but let me know your thoughts on that scene. As we get into I'm Out Buck, it's important to note that, again, during this playoff run in this particular series with the Sixers, Kareem was balling out of control. My man was averaging 33 points a game, 13 rebounds, damn near 5 blocks a game. I'm talking about domination to the core. So, I mean, this is a big blow to the Lakers. And as a basketball fan, watching sports, when you have a key player being injured, it changes the dynamic of the team. But also, when you have a real championship team, it's the others. It's the others that tend to step up and want to fill in that void for their captain being out, which we get someone, the Rook, stepping up. But I love that conversation between the two as we see Kareem tells Magic that he's officially out with his ankle injury. And he goes in to tell Magic that, you remember, back in the day, I'm not going to lie, Rook, I was just going to make my check and just play ball this year. But you were the one that motivated me. When you were giving me the hugs and being so happy with winning that one game, it's so great to see that tying back in that relationship between the big man and his point guard. I love that dynamic. As I mentioned back in episode 1 and 2, the dynamic that the show has displayed, being a huge Kobe fan that I am, even though they had their differences off the court, Kobe and Shaq, and the same could be said about Kareem and Magic to a certain extent, even though the show kind of extended that, belief of creative liberties. I love that when they show you that two dominant players, when they're on the same page, not only does it show on the court, but it translates off the court, and there's that trust that we see in that scene. So I absolutely love that moment. Let me know your thoughts on all that. As that transitions over to Magic telling the team that he wants to step in as center, and he has all the confidence in the world in doing so, and I love that confidence that we're getting from Magic, and I love the growth in Isaiah, Quincy Isaiah in the role, as we see him looking at the coach, and the coach saying, yeah, why the hell not? Let's just go ahead and make him the center. But we also see that Paul made that call because that was the exact call that Jack made in the playbook. So again, Paul always, falls back on his mentor in Jack. So I really enjoyed that there. But again, Magic, can he play at center? Well, he doesn't just play center in Game 6. He plays all these positions, which is fantastic. But let's go ahead and just talk about this Game 6, which was one of my favorite moments in this episode. One of which, I love how we see Bus talking to Red, and Red has Executive of the Year, Coach of the Year, all the stuff that Bus says, oh yeah, you got all the trophies that don't really matter because the big one is the championship game. I love that dig that we get there as we see Bus has his boys there watching the game who can care less about the game of basketball. They're just like, oh, beer, oh, F you, like just taking all that in and not really focusing on the game at hand, which we know if Jenny was there, she would have been probably had a clipboard rooting for the team to win. But oh man, that decision that Dr. Bus made with those boys getting involved was the worst. Don't get the worst. But let's get back into the 20-year-old rookie steps in for the jump ball, ready to have arguably, this is fictional, this is real life, factual, I should say, one of Magic Johnson's best games of all time, and arguably one of the best games by anyone in the game of basketball. Let's break it down. So we see a shot of all the Magic naysayers, including Bird, Cookie, who isn't claiming to know him at this point, folks at home that don't believe in him. It is time to lace it up. As we see that it's so funny that even the commissioner wasn't there. Hell, they didn't even have the championship ready. No one believed in the Lakers. It's time to prove their doubters wrong. As we get into the halftime, again, it's a tight battle. They're tied at 60. And listen, as a basketball fan, if I was the Lakers, I'm happy that we're tied at 60 with our center, our captain being out. We were on the road with a great team, Dr. Dre on the other side, and all the other great players they had. I would have been happy, but again, they're kind of showing us, the drama factor. We see Kareem's like, oh man, Jerry West is wilding out. Like, he doesn't know what to do. He's about to have a heart attack. So the show is kind of leaning more into the drama side of it. But as a basketball fan, the Lakers would have went into halftime being pretty happy with their position because they know that they have the Sixers right where they want them. But getting back into it all, we cut to a scene where we see Jenny sees her father with her brothers, and she has a really great moment with Claire, who we'll talk about that at the end here. But she tells her, you're not going to be the next me. You're going to be the next Dr. Bus, which she ultimately ends up being, getting the Lakers back over that championship, drought that we had for many seasons. So I really enjoyed that moment that she's going to be next in line. As we get into Paul gets his Band of Brothers speech, which seems to kind of rally the troops. I'm not going to lie, that speech really didn't hurrah me, as, we've seen some other great speeches in this show, but, it rallied the troops no less as they go back into the game. And now we see, again, I would say that the show definitely kind of took a little bit more dramatic moments as they head into the fourth quarter, and they kind of play on, which this is true. I'm going to give you all the stats. When it came to that third quarter, the Lakers went on a 16-0 run, but then the 76ers kind of came back. And just to kind of dive deeper into what actually happened, the Lakers went into the fourth quarter with 5 minutes to go, and they only had a 2-point lead. As we see the Lakers take a timeout during the real life, and then that's when they went on this big run, and they end up winning by a large margin. But in the show, they showed it as, I think they said it was like 2 minutes left, which again, 2 minutes, 5 minutes is a 3-minute difference, but it was a little bit different from what really happened in reality. But what I loved about this scene, as Magic at this point, he's playing center, point guard, shooting guard, small forward, playing all the positions. He's gassed out. He is so tired. He goes to the bench. Norm has him. I got you, Rook. Let's finish this game out. He goes and talks to Pat Riley, maybe the future coach of the Lakers for next season, and he tells the rookie, who at halftime, one of the people from the back room gave him the tally for who was the rookie of the year, in which we saw Pat Riley throwing that away, but he sees that the rook needs some fuel to that fire. He tells him 63-3. That was how many votes Larry Bird got over you to become the Rookie of the Year. And that was the gas that got the fire going as we see Magic goes out there and again delivers one of the best games of all time. I do love that moment so much. Let me know what you all thought of that comeback, how they played it into the show. And again, Magic coming on the court, dominating the 76ers. Let me know your thoughts on that. Getting back into what actually went down, just to kind of give you guys the stat line of what Magic did in that game. He played every position as they highlighted, but he also scored 42 points, ended the game with 15 rebounds, and handed out 7 assists. And I told y'all from the very beginning, Magic, in my eyes, is the greatest point guard of all time, but easily one of the greatest players of all time. Top 5 without a doubt. But goddamn, what a game by Magic Johnson. But let's get back into it. Love this moment as we see Bus in his head, hearing his inner thoughts and wanting to just confront his doubters. But we hear his mom saying, don't do it. Go high, play higher, play into the moment, live into the moment. Don't go to the negative spot that he tends to go. He wants to put that win in his doubter's face, but we get his moment to shine when he has his moment at the podium. But as we go back into, Kareem learns that he's going to win the MVP of the series, only for things to change. We also get a shot of Larry Bird taking some shots, because I don't want to give it away, but there's more Magic and Bird coming in the future of this show, especially in season 2. So I love that shot there. As we transition to Stern talking to Magic about him needing an answer on taking the MVP. And that's that conversation that they had a couple weeks ago, Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker. So will young Magic take that mantle? Well, we're going to talk about that. But during that session, we see that Jerry West, he is telling Bill, this management thing, it might be something I could fit into, which, like I told y'all last week, Jerry West has not only obviously one of the greatest players in his generation, but he is one of the most renowned, one of the greatest executives as well. So I love that they implement that shot, which we go back into Dr. Buss holding the trophy and thanks the team for what they did. And he even has words for his doubters like, hey, you guys doubted me? Well, I'm going to give you a you know what. So I love that he took the higher road, but also threw a little bit of his flavor in there too. Really enjoyed that sequence. But as we see, Magic wins the MVP, and Kareem watches, and you can tell that there's some tension there. He was happy for the Rook, but I think that that's going to carry over to season 2, that this whole, working together, leaning on each other, the Rook versus the veteran, the new captain maybe now, I think that's going to be a big plot for season 2. As we wrap things up, look at her. As we see Kareem having a moment with Spencer, who he reminds him what's important in life. And again, I don't know if this was when Spencer told Kareem in real life what he's going to do. And I don't know if Kareem told that story or Spencer told that story that he was trying to kill the Lakers, literally. But again, I want to go back to, I love that moment between the two, and Kareem being the one to remind him, you see that girl up there? That's what you're fighting for. So don't throw away your life over vengeance or being upset or not being where you think you belong. I really enjoyed that moment. Let me know your thoughts on that scene. As we see, Claire is now named the treasurer, which is well deserved. And then we wrap the episode with Remember the Swan song, as we see Buss with some extra cash now, a new line of credit, and he is ready to paddle as he goes outside to celebrate with his team. End of the episode, end of a fantastic show. Overall for me, the finale stuck the landing, because like I said last week, they better show us that game 6, because it was such a great game from Magic Johnson particularly, and they did. So I applaud the show of, not having as much basketball in the first half and somewhat in the second half, but they gave us the big pivotal moment of not just winning the championship, but showing us that growth of Magic Johnson as a character, like that one scene when he's on the court going back to when he was a kid. I love that. So very pleased with the finale. I love how they wrap up the storylines. I'm very intrigued to see how they are going to carry this over to season 2. Are we going to go right into training camp? Are we going to go jump right into the season? Very interested to see how they handle the Pat Riley, Paul Westhead situation as far as the head coach. What's going on with checking in with characters like Jack? Will we follow up with him in season 2? Obviously, this new head in charge, this new captain, Magic versus Kareem, and all the other players that they added to their team. And like I said, that boy Larry Bird, he ain't going nowhere. So I'm very intrigued to see what they do with season 2. But just overall with this season, like I said up top, being a Lakers fan and just enjoying not only them winning the game, seeing the behind the scenes of how they led up to building the team, how the coaching thing worked out, how Jack went out, how Paul stepped in, how Pat got involved, Jerry West in the background, Dr. Buss building his resume, all that stuff was fantastic. But it was just, I'm going to give my awards. The MVP for me in the show was John C. Reilly. The Rookie of the Year, for me, I'm going to give it to the Rook, Quincy Isaiah. I thought he really played into the charisma of Magic, and I was criticizing him for not hitting those emotional beats, but as we got further down the line, he definitely kind of played more into those dramatic elements. Coach of the Year, I'm going to give that to Pat Riley. I love what Adrian Brody did. No disrespect to John Siegel and everything that he brought to the role as Paul, and also Jack. I thought he was great, but I think Adrian Brody really did a great job in portraying Pat Riley. I think he was great there. Sixth Man of the Award, I'm going to give that award to Sally Fields. I thought Sally Fields as Mrs. Buss was so fantastic, and limited role in the first half, but she got more involved in the second half, and I thought she was so great. So that's where I'm going to give that Sixth Man award to. And then what Defensive Player of the Year? Who's the Defensive Player of the Year? Jerry West. Jerry West is the defensive player of this show. He was defensive all season long, and I just really enjoyed what we got with Jason Clarke in that role. I thought he was fantastic. So, hey, those are my awards. That's my thoughts on the finale, the season, what I hope to see in season 2, and all the stuff that we discussed in this review. So let me know all your thoughts of this finale, your thoughts on the show, what you hope to see in season 2, what awards would you give out to the actors in the show in regards to the basketball awards and everything in between. Let's have that discussion. Again, like I said up top, thank you all for the support for the last 10 weeks, watching these reviews, commenting, sharing, being a part of this journey. It means a lot to me. I have other shows that I'm covering on HBO right now. For my Barry fans, we're covering Barry Season 3. We have a original series called We Own the City that I'm covering on Monday, and a variety of other shows and movies that I cover on the show. So I hope you all stick around and watch me cover those shows and movies. Again, hope you enjoyed this content. Hope you all are staying safe. If you haven't already, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. As you can see on the screen now, come and join the community. Check out all my reviews for this show, Winning Time. Check out my most recent review. We'll catch you all on the next breakdown.